resigned. I wasn't surprised at all that he got in trouble. But
all right, we ready to get started?
Yes.
Okay, cameras on.
Cameras are on.
All right, good evening, everybody. I am Rick Wolf, and this is the September 9th, 2021 meeting of the East Amwell Township Committee.
In compliance with the Open Publics Meeting Act, this is a regular scheduled meeting pursuant to the resolution adopted on January 4th, 2021, with the meeting notice published in the Hunterdon County Democrat issue of January 14th, 2021. A copy of the agenda was forwarded to the Hunterdon County Democrat, Times of Trenton, Star Ledger, Courier News, posted on the bulletin board and township website, and filed in the township clerk's office on September 7th, 2021. Mr. Castellano.
Here.
Mr. Mills.
here.
Ms. Ramsey.
Here.
Mr. Sobieski. And Mr. Wolf.
I'm here.
Chris. Note
Chris is here.
7:30.
Just getting my teeth.
Okay,
I'll try not to.
I'll wait till he gets still.
okay.
I'm good, going, I'm good.
Okay, normally at this time we pledge to the flag, and we will, but before we pledge to the flag, I wanted to say a few words about the upcoming 20th anniversary of September 11th. September 11th was a Tuesday. It was actually a beautiful day. It was one of those days where it's great to be alive, not a cloud in the sky. As I did pretty much every day at that time, I got on a train in Far Hills, where I live, to go to Hoboken, and got on the PATH train to go to the World Trade Center, which I did. I walked through the World Trade Center and then walked a few blocks down to my office. About a half hour later, the first plane hit the North Tower. Not long thereafter, the second plane hit the South Tower. I was still in my office when the first tower collapsed. The sky went dark. I saw burning papers go past the window of my office. I didn't know the first tower collapsed, but I knew something was wrong. Power started going on and off in our building. We were evacuating people. I was helping our fire marshal for our floor make sure that everybody was out. By the time I got downstairs, downtown Manhattan looked like a war zone. People were screaming, people were crying, everything was covered with dust. People couldn't breathe. I got on the Staten Island ferry because I didn't know how else to get out. When we got on the ferry, they asked us all to put on life jackets because no one knew what was happening. No one knew if someone would try to attack the ferry. So we all put on our life jackets. My brother-in-law was in 7 World Trade Center, which collapsed. He actually escaped before it collapsed. And when he got downstairs and walked out the door, he heard these loud thuds. Those loud thuds were people jumping from the World Trade Center. He told me he saw one woman jump, and when she jumped, she was actually holding her skirt on the way down so it wouldn't blow over her head. He never forgot that. I returned to New York City the following Monday. Again, took the train into Hoboken. The first stop on the way to Hoboken was Bernardsville, and there were 2 or 3 people waiting in Bernardsville to get on the train. But there were a lot more than 2 or 3 cars. And that struck me as a bit odd, because I always get the first train out, and usually you have about the number of cars as you have people. I realized as we got a little bit further down the line, those cars were the people who didn't get home, who died in the Trade Center. Some of those cars stayed in that parking lot for months. It's just a reminder every time you went by of what happened. When I got to Hoboken, there was no train to the PATH, obviously. They were running a ferry. And the ferry went down the river past the Trade Center. Nobody on the ferry said a word. You just looked and all you saw was smoke and a horrible, horrible smell, which I'll never forget. Some people started crying. We got to Pier 11, the ferry dropped us off. When the ferry dropped us off, there were people waiting there to greet us as we got off the ferry, and they were handing out these. I've had this for 20 years. They handed out these flags. This flag gave me, I don't know, sense of comfort getting this flag. I don't know whose idea it was to hand out flags, but whoever's idea it was a great idea. And I kept it. As I walked to the office, one of the firehouses was along the way. As I walked by, the firehouse was closed. But on the window of the firehouse were pictures. Every fireman in that firehouse died. Not one survived. It was one of the first to hit the World Trade Center. Not a single fireman survived. They were all dead. There were no engines in there because the engines didn't make it back. For weeks, downtown was just terrible, a horrible smell. And then you'd see pictures everywhere around downtown Manhattan. Have you seen this person? Well, they were all people who never made it out. They ultimately consolidated those pictures in one area, but they were people who never made it out. So, tonight, after we say our Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to have a moment of silence for all those who lost their lives in the World Trade Center disaster, terrorist attack, almost 20 years ago. And normally we pledge allegiance to this flag. Tonight, I'd like to pledge to this flag. So if you'd all stand, please, and pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we sit, could we just stay standing and have a moment of silence, please? Thank you. This time of the year always brings back bad memories for me, particularly given this is the 20th anniversary. So if I'm a little disjointed this evening, bear with me. Krista, do we have anything on the agenda review?
No.
Okay. We have a few announcements to make. Our Recreations Committee Friday night in the park is going to be held September 17th from 5 p.m. until dusk. There'll be live music, food, an ice cream truck. It's always a nice event. And our rec committee puts a lot of work into it. So please try to come out. It's a great way to meet your neighbors, listen to some music, have some food. Our DPW does a great job getting the park really pretty. It always looks terrific. And it's fun just chatting with your neighbors and watching the kids play. Hunterdon County Division of Parks and Rec is going to show Herbie the Love Bug under the stars at the 4-H grounds on September 18th from 7 to 9 p.m. The rain date is September 23rd. There'll be an Identishred at Hunterdon County Complex on September 18th from 8 to 11:30 a.m. or until the trucks are full. By the way, we'll probably do another shredding event here next spring. The one we did this spring was very popular, so we're going to try to find some money in the budget and do another municipal shredding event here in the spring. We're also going to try to do another electronics collection event, since that was very popular as well. The Living Waters Lutheran Church is going to hold a blood drive at its Fellowship Hall at 11 Old York Road in Ringgoes on Tuesday, September 21st from 2 to 7. Appointments are encouraged, and you can contact Pastor JJ at the number on our agenda. Our rec committee is going to hold a community yard sale on September 25th and 26th. You can check the community events page on our township website for more information. The yard sale has been a very popular event, so if you're interested, keep an eye on our website. Our municipal offices will be closed on October 11th in recognition of Columbus Day. Voter registration deadline for the general election is October 12th. Hunterdon County voters will have an opportunity for early voting beginning October 23rd and to experience new voter sign-in technology at the polls, both mandated by the state. Early voting will begin on October 23rd and run to October 31st. The polls will be open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. on weekdays and Saturdays and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays. The Board of Elections has designated 3 in-person early voting locations for Hunterdon County, and they are the North Branch Library in the town of Clinton, the main library at the county's Route 12 complex, and the South County Fairgrounds 4-H building in East Amwell. East Amwell tax sale is scheduled for October 22nd at 10 a.m. at the municipal building. Contact our tax collector for more information. And Krista, you left something very important off of the agenda here as special announcements. September 26th will be Kathy's and my 28th wedding anniversary. Can you imagine she's been married to me for 28 years? That should have been first. And we've never had an argument in 28 years. I always say to people, we've never had an argument in 28 years, because Kathy's the only person in the world who realizes that I'm always right. Under special discussions, presentations, Patrick, would you like to come up and do your update on the Amwell Valley Ambulance Corps?
Yes, thank you. And I had my 29th anniversary on the last day of the fair with my wife. That's when we celebrated our anniversary, was at the fair. We did about 30 calls in August. We stood by at the fair for 5 days, pretty much almost 14 hours a day. So we're still pretty tired from that. We had 15 medical calls there and only had to transport 1. So and I think that's mostly because of our building. There were heat emergencies in our building. We have air conditioning in there. And I think we were able to cool them off without having to take people away. So that really worked out nice. We answered all our calls. We had a couple calls outside the fair. We're standing by for the Sheep and Fiber Festival this weekend too. We don't get any breaks. And we've been standing by for all the flooding, having all our ambulances manned and just trying to prevent people from getting into high water. And I just recommend, if you hear there's a storm coming, we always hear that the storm coming and get extra personnel. And the public really should leave work early, stay home if they can, and drive slower, because you can't see floodwater until you're right on top of it. And if you're driving the speed limit or faster, that's when people drive right into it. And if there's a sign that says the road is flooded, please believe the sign that the road is flooded. We've got to rescue people who went around the signs and drove into the water anyway. So it's really, you're just putting not only your life in danger, but other people's lives, which we have lost people in East Amwell. So it just puts more people at risk. So I'm lucky I have a job where they give me off for doing rescues, so I was able to be around a lot for the rescues. But other people aren't that lucky. I know people have to work, but if you think the storm's coming and they're warning, you know, stay home. Or if you can't stay home, look for the shelters and go to the shelters. But, we're still here for you. We're working hard, keeping everybody as safe as we can. But again, it'll come to common sense. Let's stay out of it. There was a time where we couldn't even get out of our squad building. 202 was flooded, 179 was flooded, Gulick Road was flooded to try to get up to 31. It was a mess. So keep that in mind, and I'm afraid there were houses we couldn't even get to for hours. But I mean, there's only so much we can do. So, I hope everybody stays safe, and that's really all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Regarding Ida, we are going to have 5 dumpsters here on September 18th, where people can bring flood-damaged personal property. I don't know if 5 dumpsters is going to be enough. You can't get a dumpster. It's virtually impossible. Jason Silverthorne managed to pull strings. He got us 5. So the DPW, myself, and some other volunteers will be here that Saturday from 8 in the morning until 2 for those who want to bring flood-damaged items. Residents who are 65 and over who cannot get their flood-damaged items to the municipal building, we're trying to get volunteers who have pickup trucks to come to your home and pick them up. I've reached out to the county to see if we could access dump trucks, but that doesn't look like it's going anywhere. I'm going to see if there are other alternatives to get these materials, so stay tuned. I have been in constant contact with Congressman Malinowski's office about aid, both for the county and for our residents. In terms of our residents, I posted some information on the website, I guess the day before yesterday. I'll be posting more over the next couple days about how you can apply for aid. There is a deadline in October, which I'll put on our website, for you to start the application process. So we're going to get that out there on the website, Facebook, etc. You can't wait months to start the application process, and you don't want to miss that. I really do want to thank Congressman Malinowski for all he's done for us on this, what really was a disaster for East Amwell. The day after the storm, early afternoon, he called me. He was on his way back from Washington. He wanted to get an assessment of how bad it was here and wanted to know what his office could do to help. And I told him it was bad. It was really bad. And I told him that the damage to the bridges in this county was probably well in excess of $10 million. So the county was going to need aid to fix these bridges. The municipalities would need aid to deal with the damage to the roads. But most importantly, we had a lot of residents who don't have flood insurance because they never in their wildest imagination thought their property would flood. I mean, the morning after I ran into Dave Everett, I was out on my ATV going around looking at the damage because I could get just about anywhere with that. And Dave said in 61 years he's never seen anything like this, and people around him who never had a drop of water in their basement flooded. So I said to Tom, we need aid for these people. They don't have insurance. And by Sunday night, Monday morning, we had aid. I took Congressman Malinowski around on Saturday afternoon to see the damage. I took him around parts of East Amwell, but I also took him into Delaware Township to show him Lower Creek Road. Lower Creek Road disappeared. And I don't mean the blacktop washed away. I mean the road, a whole section of the road is literally gone. That has to be over $1 million project to rebuild that road. It is literally gone. And while we were there, we were talking to some of the people who lived around that area. They got flooded, never had water in their basement before. So I will post information as I get it. I'm trying to figure out ways to gather all the property that was destroyed in the flood, but for now we have the 5 dumpsters. If we go beyond 5 dumpsters, I don't think we're turning people away. I think we're just going to try to pile it somewhere on the parking lot until we can get more dumpsters or packers, those trucks that'll compress it. That's not optimal, and that's probably going to create problems, but I really don't want to turn people away. So we're going to do the best we can and see what else is available. We lost at least 1 resident. I don't know if we lost more than 1. I had heard that we may have lost a second, but I haven't heard any information. But we did lose a resident. The county, I've heard 2 different numbers, lost 5 or 6 residents. They told us on a mayor's call about a week ago that it was 6. Or I guess about 5 days ago that it was 6. Recently I saw in the paper 5, so I'm not sure. But we certainly lost residents in this county, and at least 1 in East Amwell. And that's really sad. People weren't expecting this. 4 o'clock that afternoon, I said to Kathy, we dodged a bullet here. We had hardly any rain, and the Weather Channel was calling for 2 more inches overnight. Great, we dodged a bullet. And then the rain started. And over a 4-hour period, we got 10 to 12 inches of rain. It was just a disaster. But true to the spirit of East Amwell, neighbors started helping neighbors. Things popped up on Facebook. People showed up with whatever they could do to help. That's East Amwell Township. We all help each other. And that's one of the reasons I love living in this town. But your neighbors are going to continue to need help for weeks and probably months to come. So if you have some free time, help your neighbors.
Rick, can I actually speak about that just because?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I think everyone knows that neighbors helping neighbors is something that just kind of popped up a bit organically over the past, it's been over a week now. So probably about a few days after the storm, I think so many of us were assessing our own damage in our homes and in our properties. I personally didn't even leave my house for a few days because we were taking care of fencing and removing water from our basement, and for the 3rd time that it's flooded this past summer. But I think as we all started kind of venturing out, we noticed just how bad the town was. People started posting pictures on Facebook. The bridges, the roads, I was in complete shock, to be honest. Like so many of us, I did not know how bad it was. And like Rick mentioned, we have an amazing group of residents, and some of them I consider good friends. A small group of us got together, I think it was last Sunday night.
Sounds about right, yeah.
We kind of started it through like the PTO, but it kind of then became a little bit Township and then a little bit of RVAC, and honestly it was just neighbors trying to help neighbors, as simple as that. We pulled together a really kind of fun group of men and women. We decided that we needed to take some immediate action. The goal, right, was to assess what people needed and then match them up with volunteers that could help. That's the premise of the program. It's active, it's live, it's running right now. We have things like going to individuals' homes and helping to clear out their basement. We have things where, could we shop for you? A lot of our residents lost their cars, lost their automobiles. Can we shop for you? Can we run to the grocery store for you? Can we give you water? Some people's water heaters are no longer working. Can we do laundry for you? The list goes on and on. So if you're if you're not on, so a lot of this has been on social media, but I know a lot of our residents are not on social media, so that's why I asked Krista to put this on the agenda, because I just wanted to make sure that people were aware of this program. Right now, everything is online. It's actually accessible through our township website. Allison posted that today. Thank you, Allison. It's all over Facebook. I think I share it, and other members of the group share it pretty much daily. It's a survey, again, if you have a need or if you'd like to volunteer. For the past few days, we've been sending crews out to homes within the community to help. We have, now that's kind of schools are back and these have been work days, the crews are a little bit smaller, but I'm anticipating a pretty good turnout for the weekend. We are, collecting, I wanted to mention one of our residents, Jim Houston, he actually also walked around the township flyers and dropped them off at the different churches. He dropped them off at different local businesses, just for the post office, anywhere that someone might see the flyer who may not be online or who may not be on social media. So we've really tried to get this out there to as many people as possible. So for people here, for people who might be watching on the YouTube channel, please let your neighbors, let your family know that we are providing this program. Again, it's really not run or sponsored through anything. It's just a group of your neighbors that are trying to help one another. We're also putting together a meal train. Allison is doing that right now as well, right? You may not have power, your fridge may not be working, who knows, right? Or you may just be really, really busy trying to clean up your home and your property. And a warm home-cooked meal could be really awesome. So we're also trying to provide that. To be honest, guys, we have so many people that want to help. The volunteer list is probably 6 to 8 times the size of the list of individuals who have asked for help. So, there's nothing too small, nothing too big to ask for. Please, there's no shame in asking for help. I know this is, sometimes we don't like to ask for help, and it's an inherent sometimes inherent in our personalities, but there's, nothing that you can't ask for in this community. You have people that want to help you. So I really encourage everyone to go out. If you have any questions, you can speak to myself. There's the group of individuals, just so you're aware, some of our amazing PTO leadership, which is Natalie Nelson and Ann Wilhelm, some other fantastic residents and friends, Lily Grillo, Mandy Allen, and of course Allison Castellano, who's in the audience. I would also want to take a moment to just recognize Stephanie Hutchins. If you guys don't know Stephanie is, I would call her a leader in our community right now. She is the mastermind and the backbone of this whole operation. She's doing all of the Google Docs, she's assigning people, she's all the behind the work activity, and she's doing this while actually her own home suffered some damage as well. So the woman is just incredible. She's doing as many things as possible. So if you've already reached out and you've gotten some emails, you probably know Stephanie's name because she's doing a ton of work. I mentioned Jim Houston, who has been, phenomenal. I don't even know how many hours he spent on the pavement yesterday walking around those flyers to our different local businesses and neighbors. Also wanted to make a mention too of Manny, who owns the Ringo's Deli in downtown Ringo's. He actually donated how many cases of water?
I think there's one pound. It's like 40 or 50 cases of water.
That I think you went and got picked up today. So we have a ton of, I've seen the pictures. It's a heck of a lot of water, guys. So thank you to Manny. Amazing, right? And I can't even, I would spend way too long going through all of the different ways that our community has volunteered and has shown up and has offered their help and support. So would be happy to talk about that offline, but I don't want to take too much more time up. But just so everyone is aware, any questions, my name is, mine and Stephanie and Chris's, and Jim's name is on all of these communications. So please just feel free to reach out to us and spread the word, right? Because again, we have so many more volunteers than we have people actually signing up for right now. And so again, no ask is too small, right? We're here to help. And I think,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention, I think Allison will, I know there's areas that I missed, so probably in the open to the public, maybe Allison will help fill in some of the blanks for me. But
also wanted to say, people should check on their neighbors, because I was working on an older gentleman's house, and he told me about his neighbor who had no water, no heat or anything like that, but the neighbor had no way to contact us. So if you're older residents or whatever, please check on them and fill out the form so we can get some people over there to help them. I think you're taking water to them tomorrow, right? And
I think Maria's
tonight,
doing it.
tonight, that's right.
Maria's doing it, right?
Right, and they're helping them fill out the FEMA form too,
That's awesome.
so,
That's Daniel's new friend, right?
yes. His new friend, right?
Yeah, awesome. All right, thanks, Rick.
If I could just jump in, I just want to mention one other resident who's been a pillar in this community forever, who has never turned down anybody who needed help, and that's Dave Mummy from Dave Sunoco. I know he busted his butt on the night of the storm, helping people on Amwell Road, but doesn't matter what time of day, you know, Dave is always there to help this community, and he's just the absolute best. So, just want to say that.
Thank you, John. Perfectly said.
So I'm going to segue into my acknowledgements tonight. Every month I try to acknowledge people who have done things for the community during the prior month. And tonight's acknowledgements all revolve around Ida. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge our fire company and rescue squad. They worked tirelessly, not only during the storm, but for days after the storm, helping people pump out basements, etc. They're not really equipped to go out and rescue people in these kinds of floodwaters. We're a small town. We don't have this fancy flood rescue equipment. So when Patrick was talking about our volunteers putting their lives at risk, he's serious. They really are putting their lives at risk. And these are volunteers. And they give so much to the community. I know I acknowledge them a lot, but it's only a fraction of what they really deserve. These are terrific people. The first responders from the surrounding towns that pitched in to help out, I'd like to thank them as well. We were overwhelmed, and we did get help from surrounding towns, and it was much needed and much appreciated. Again, the residents who are pitching in to help their neighbors, and there are lots of them, like Tara said, lots and lots of people. Our DPW, who also went out and tried to rescue people, and they really don't have the equipment to be doing that, but they did what they could. And then the next morning they were out there trying to get our roads open so that people can get in and out. And they've been working on that since. They are absolutely terrific. And finally, I'd like to thank Krista, who is inundated with all sorts of questions, requests, and she's been managing it and coordinating and really working day and night, far beyond the hours we pay her for. And always pleasant and always tries to be helpful. So thank you, Krista.
My pleasure.
With that, we'll get on to some more mundane things. Item number 9 on the agenda, approving the minutes. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes from our October 12th, 2021 regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Could I have a motion to approve our August 12th, 2021 executive session minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We have no special committee reports tonight. We have no standing committee reports tonight. So with that, we are open to the public. Could I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are open to the public right now. We are open. You can discuss any topic you'd like. The first session, we have a 10-minute limit. If you want to chat longer than that, there's no limit on our second session. But anyone who would like to get up and speak, now is your chance. Candace, long time no see.
Candy Wiggum, 1116 Old York Road. I was fortunate enough to be on the receiving side of all this help. On September 1st, I was in Oregon watching the events unfold on TV and through neighbors. The morning of the 2nd, Jim Housen let me know that my basement had filled with water from floor to ceiling. And in the 2 previous storms, I hadn't gotten any water in it, so it was that unusual an event. He and my other neighbor, Gary Mertz, did what they could, made sure the water was pumping out, met with Kevin, my plumber, Kevin Beck, Stellatanos and Stovers, to check on the water heater, which was dead, the furnace, which was dead, and to reattach my water holding tank, which had burst off, so that the well would stop pumping water into my basement as well. I got back on Sunday. Jim and I cut holes in the floor in my room to free up the trapdoors to get to the crawl space underneath my bedroom. And on Monday morning, I woke up thinking, what am I going to do? So I checked out Facebook, and there was Tara's message saying if anybody needs help, the PTO is getting it ready. And I immediately texted back and said, I need help. The help I got was amazing. Kathy Wolf saw my post and told Rick, and he was the first one who arrived and got right to work. Darcy Perennis also saw it and said she and the kids would be over as soon as they finished their morning chores. And, it was incredible. Besides the basement, I had this crawl space under my bedroom that's about that tall. And Darcy and her kids got under there and pulled out all the sopping wet insulation and ductwork and bagged it and vacked it so to get all the water they could out. And I never heard a complaint, ever. Then, of course, Tara came with her family and other helpers, and my neighbors from across the street came over and helped clean out my shed. They ripped out they got out everything in the basement, and there was furniture down there. There was a freezer that had upended and with rotten food in it now. There were photo albums. There was, if you looked in my basement, essentially everything had been lifted up, swished around, and slammed back down. So it was a mess. Tara ran to Home Depot and got me.
How's it working?
It's great. And my other one arrived too, so I got 2 down there. It's suck it out.
We got Candace a dehumidifier.
Dehumidifier, yeah.
That's awesome.
Everybody went downstairs, and once all the stuff was out, they started ripping out the insulation, ripping up the floors, ripping off the wall boards, just taking everything down to the studs because everything was soaking wet. As I said, it went to the ceiling. It stopped about an inch from my first floor where I live. I was so lucky it didn't go 2 inches higher. My neighbor Laura Olson from across the street came over and brought everybody muffins so we'd have something to eat. My daughter came with water because water is really important. Like you said, it was hot doing all that work. Chris showed up and helped with all the cleanup stuff at the end. That was still a mess. We were just hauling everything out, putting it out in front. When Rick says 5 dumpsters, I've got enough to fill 1. By the end of the day, a miracle had happened. This basement that was a mess was cleaned out and stripped bare so it could dry out, and everybody helped arrange fans and get the dehumidifier going and start the work of cleaning up. And all the windows, the reason my basement flooded, well, there's a couple reasons. One, there was a lot of water, but it also pushed out all the windows and broken glass, and so the water just rushed in there. What I would tell everybody, I've got a dog pen out back that's got 6-foot high chain link fence, and the water lifted the doghouse out of that pen and took it to the wind. It took it to the woods. That's how high the water was in my yard. If I had been there, I would have been trapped and would have been calling, "Get me out of here!" So I'm glad I wasn't there. Once it was stripped down, the fans that Lynn Griesinger, David Wong Iverson, and Ted Dent's brought over were put out to dry out the water. While we were all working, I got messages from other residents saying, can we help? We're available to help. East Amwell is an amazing community, and I want to recognize that spirit that's still out there helping. I also wanted to say something about the kids that came over. I think they ranged in age from about 8 maybe to 18. All of them got to work in the dirtiest jobs. They were bagging that insulation. They were crawling in that crawl space. They were hauling up floor and drywall from the basement. And I never heard them complain. They all just went to work too.
They had fun.
Yeah, they really
They
did.
had fun. They enjoyed themselves, trust me.
You know, if people worry about the next generation, I say, don't worry. I mean, these guys were amazing. I want to thank everyone who has given me help and support through this process. We may not always agree with one another, but when help is needed, good people are there. I know that there are groups out there lending a hand, and I encourage anybody who needs help not to be shy for asking about it. I feel like I made all kinds of new friends, and I feel so fortunate that I ended up living in East Amwell when I moved here. So thank you, everybody, and that's my side of it.
Now, the next one to speak, you have a tough act to follow. Anyone else like to speak? Yes, Bob Rowe. It's nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see everybody here. And I'm asking on behalf of the East Amwell Senior Citizen Group to show our appreciation of the support you've been giving us, and we hope we can still count on it. And we would like to reduce it by $200 if it helps. And that's basically what I'm asking for. We have the problem of bus trips because we can't use a small bus. We have to have facilities for our seniors. So it makes it very difficult for us to get out and do the trips we used to. However, we still can have our ice cream parties and our breakfast out together. So that's all I'm asking for, that you continue support to us. And any way we can help reduce that, we'll work at it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Seeing no one else, could I have a motion to close?
Francis.
Oh, okay. Francis?
And Allison.
I'm sorry?
And
Allison,
Allison
too.
too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's got to fill in. Francis Gavigan, 123 Wurtsville Road, Ringgoes, New Jersey. Congratulations to the bipartisan groups that are coming together to help everyone. As you're coming up with tasks or looking for work crews, one thing I noticed from helping a neighbor whose driveway was washed away by these storms, and that her bridge was not destroyed because 5-6 foot of logs are attached to 2 trees that somebody's going to have to negotiate with a chainsaw to try to save to keep from taking it out. There is probably a need for help by people who are skilled with chainsaws to clear waterways or clear paths or to get stuff to the grit yard. I have chainsaws. I'm not very good at this point in my carcass career, but I got the cute toys, and I got a front end loader and a backhoe and a truck that can pull, or if we rent and on the days that we would want to do it, there are places where we could rent a dump trailer and go around and pick up stuff that then could get and dumped at the grit yard. So that's one thing, and I commend you, Tara, and Allison, as always, and the others for, you know, helping one another. You know, when times get tough, the good get going. I mentioned this last night at the planning board, but I became aware of and attended a seminar, and there is a funding opportunity, FEMA brick grants that are designed for people who have flood insurance or who are about to get flood insurance. And if they get it by the end of September, they're eligible for brick resiliency infrastructure grants. Now, these will be going out, there's over $1 billion for next year. It opens September 30th. It closes January 28th. Each state is eligible. I'm sure New Jersey, somebody is doing it at New Jersey, and there are, I think, like 20 sub proposals that could be done by communities and such. The requirement for communities like East Amwell or the county is that they're on this list that was generated back after Floyd, I presume, and I checked that list. And yes, that East Amwell and Hunterdon County are on it. So it has to maybe you, John, or somebody, you know, maybe work with the county to try to see if we can get some grant writers or worker bees to try to put together some places that could do with some resiliency. I suspect Il Dufasse can provide input on his needs since his old farm kind of got washed out. You know, there's a lot of work to do. It's going to take time, and the government, you know, there are the dog and pony shows. They come, there's photo ops, and then folks go on. This is the time where you're going to be called on to get into the trenches and to do stuff, and not just do it now, but throughout the fall and the winter and the next series of storms. And anything that I can do to help, you know, put me down. And, you know, if there's government money out there, let's go get some. And I'm sure, and there's all of these seminars, webinars, the ones that have happened are online with FEMA, and then there's some on the 13th and the 20th of this month, and there's tips and failings as, you know, how does your proposal fail? There's even resources to help you fill it out. Anyway, go forth and get government money. We've put it in there.
Yes.
I was not sure I was going to talk tonight because I'm Frida Ralph on Linville Road, because right now there's still so many people in need, and with all the work that's going on and stuff, and I understand there's going to be funding to help with the roads and the bridges for the township's loss, you know, what it's going to cost us. But one of the things I wanted to inquire about is if there is any funding available for stream corridor restoration. And I just happen to live at the bridge at Linville and Rocktown Road, which was completely flooded with both hurricanes, but not structurally damaged. And I'm also an avid storm watcher, so I sat in my car at the driveway and backed up as the water got deeper. And then the next day I drove everywhere, including Rainbow Hill Road, and saw the 2 cars on Wirtsville Road and stuff. And the devastation of all the uprooted trees and what it's going to mean long term in terms of, with future storms, diverting the water sooner into people's properties, and also the stuff that grows. You know, I've fought multiflora rosa for almost 40 years, but now the new thing is the mile a minute that is just taking over next to my house close to the bridge and killing the trees, and we've already got the ash trees growing. So I'm wondering, and I think Tracy Carluccio is very involved in waters and waterways and stuff. She might be the one that would know whether there is some funding available for that.
Here's the problem. There's always a problem, particularly in New Jersey.
Right.
I spoke with the county engineer, Tom Matthews, about whether the county, as part of the Van Lewis Bridge project, could do some flood remediation work. The answer was no. That NJDEP will not allow municipalities to, in any way, shape, or form, affect the flow of water as part of a bridge project, a road project, or any other project.
So all the uprooted trees just stay.
It sounds crazy, but the rationale is that if you do flood remediation at point X, then more flood water will go to point Y. And since point X already knows that a particular area is a flood zone, people won't build there. So the bottom line is they're concerned that if you fix your flood problem, you're going to make your neighbor's flood problem worse. So he said to me, we cannot do anything about that. So I talked to Congressman Malinowski about it. And the infrastructure bill, which is hopefully going to pass, allocates $50 billion to dealing with resiliency, which in our case would be flood mitigation. So the hope would be that New Jersey will get a significant amount of that money, and areas that have flooding problems can take care of, could apply flood mitigation in a way where you're not making your problem worse for your neighbor. In other words, it would be a mitigation plan that would cover the stream, the whole stream, not just the part in East Amwell, but the whole stream, and try to handle it in a way where it reduces the flooding for everybody. That's not a project that's going to happen tomorrow.
No, of course not.
That'll happen over time.
Right.
But in terms of East Amwell's ability or the county's ability to in any way, shape, or form impact the flow of water, we can't do it. The DEP will not approve it.
Interesting.
Technically, if a tree is in a stream, you cannot go into the stream and remove that tree without getting a DEP permit.
Even the property owner?
Yeah. People do it.
Well, yes. Well, I've been cutting down on my property, but
People
not
do
in
it,
the
but
stream.
technically,
Yeah.
once it's in that stream, it's impacting the flow of water, you can't touch it.
Interesting.
That's how strict the rules are. People do it all the time. They go in and pull the tree out. Nobody's
Yeah.
chasing after them. But the way it was described to
Right.
me, you cannot do anything that in any way, shape, or form will affect the flow of water without getting DEP approval.
Any vegetation, any type of vegetation.
I suspect that's right. Because I asked them about the trees. The county will come and take the trees away from the bridges after these storms. I don't
But they
know that
can't
they're
go-
pulling DEP permits. They're just doing it. But
Well, you-
technically, you have to get DEP approval. And the towns like Clinton that have big issues with the trees backing up, they have to wait until the DEP blesses them to go in and clean it out. They can't just go and do it.
Okay.
So that's sort of probably a
Right.
longer answer than you wanted,
Right.
but that's the answer to the flood.
Because, part of the problem where I live, I'm at the corner of Linville and Rocktown, that bridge next to the winery, is that all the underground pipes that went on the top of Linville Road is now sending the water down faster. And my particular driveway, the pipe that goes under mine was probably put in 20 years ago, and I actually brought a picture that I'll probably just email it to you, and it has now filled up with silt, where there's only that much space for water to ever go into the stream.
That we may be able to help you with.
I did point it out to the road department.
Okay, because
in my-
what they'll do is, they'll come and clean that out, or if they can't, they get the fire company to come with the hose and blow it out with
Right.
one of the high-pressure hoses.
Yeah, it's about 100 feet that it goes.
That we can handle, because
Right.
that's not impacting a
Yeah.
stream.
Okay.
So if it's a pipe under your driveway, the DPW can
Yeah.
be helpful there.
It's, yeah.
And
And
they're
it's the
working
last
on.
pipe that feeds all that water to the stream.
And they're working on clearing out the ditches along the
Yeah.
roadways. We know
Right.
there are problems on Mountain Road. We know there are problems elsewhere in the township,
Uh-huh.
you know, but it's 5 guys and they're doing as much
Oh,
as they
yeah,
can.
yeah, I
But
talked to them
we
the other
know
day, and
that
I
there are
said, I
those
know
drainage
this is
problems.
not immediate concern. I took a picture of them with their big dump truck full of pavement that they
Yep.
picked up and hauled away yesterday.
But we can help you with the
Yeah,
pipe.
okay, great, thank you. And I just wanted to thank everybody for the magnificent work that's been done post this storm, the road crew, the township, the volunteers. It's just been a phenomenal what's been going on.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Allison?
Alison Castellano, 9 Kroll Court. Just circling back to what Tara said, I haven't got a lot to add, just that sometimes I think we might be in a catch-22 with some people in that those, the elderly or those that aren't necessarily looking online for the information, because the information is all online, but those that may need the most help will not see what we're offering. So the emphasis is on anybody that knows anybody. Like the elderly man up on Limburg is a classic example of that. He's not online. He has no idea. He absolutely had nothing, but we didn't know about him until the people next door did ask for some help. So, please have a think of people that you know that may need the help. We've got people. We have plenty of people, as Tara said, that will volunteer at different times, different days. But we just need to know who these people are to go out there. And they may not necessarily need a massive crew of people. They just may need to get to a doctor's appointment, someone driving there, or they may just need some small piece of help. And obviously, meals, if people need meals, if, it's not necessarily going to be having to make a big meal for, take the guy up on Limburg, for example. It's an elderly couple. They don't need a humongous amount of food made for them. They need maybe a delivery. We took a pizza to them. He was over the moon. Just something small. We could give them a gift card for a pizza place. We can order them takeout or something. So, I put there's been tons of posts that we've put out, of individual snapshots of what we're doing. But I did put a post out today on, it's on the PTO homepage, it's on the Township homepage as a notification. It will be on the community page on the Township page, and it's now on the Facebook pages. It's a consolidated list of everything we're doing with hyperlinks taking you to all the different things. So go there, contact any of us. As for the cleanup day next week, I'm going to meet Jason tomorrow just to talk through some of the front end logistics of the volunteers that we can provide, what's needed. So, if anybody's out there, they have your pickup trucks. There's plenty of those in East Amwell. Please volunteer, get online and just volunteer for that day if you can, so we can see who's out there and who's available. Frances mentioned her front loader. That's not a bad idea and that sort of stuff, because as an example, one of the house on Willisowitz that got cleared out yesterday started to get cleared out yesterday. It's nowhere near finished, and there has to be probably at least 200 bags of trash out from that basement. There's tons of furniture. I mean, for people to hand lift that stuff onto these trucks, it's not going to be that easy, and it's a humongous job. Now, will we get it all done on the 18th? No, probably not, but it's a start, and whatever we can do, we can do. But so if anybody has the availability on that day and has a big vehicle, we have a couple of other things lined up to do with this too. And also means, for example, if you have a huge truck, and we can send you around to 2 or 3 houses and try and, pick up for people if they just don't have the ability to get it there. So that's just the appeal really for that. Anything else? No, I think that's it on that. And as this is nothing to do with that, but the yard sale at the end of the month, we will go ahead with it. I don't know, whether people really want to get involved in that at this point. But the other point there is that we're going to do a communal kind of location at Clausen Park if people want to come and just sell from there. So not sell from there. Well, yeah, sell from there, I suppose. Well, no, I can't. So that's there anyway. So please let us know, and obviously, good old telephone works too. You can call us, and our numbers are all on these posts. Call us, contact us, email us, whatever. we'll get people to do whatever we need to do. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Alice.
That's awesome.
All right. Excuse me, anyone else? I see Tim Willie, I see Julie Parker. So Tim, come on.
While we're in between, just also, as people call up, because Daniel went out, we have people assessing, like how much work or how many people are needed for jobs. So if you're not really sure, just call up. We'll send somebody out to look to see if it's 2 bags or 200 bags. And then we'll know how big a crew that we can actually send to your house, or how much we could actually take from your house. So if you just call up and we'll do an assessment. I mean, we can't do plumbing work and stuff, which we've had calls about that already, but
Sorry.
really. Well, we could, but we don't have no money, so.
Mark did gutter work,
I did
right?
gutter work.
Mark
I
did
did
gutter
a couple
work, but
houses.
plumbing
Yeah.
is a little beyond
I
us
did.
right now.
So, but if you call up, at least give a fair assessment of how many people we can send to your house and how much material to pick up.
Just say your name and address, please.
Julie Parker, 14 Sandra Road, Ringos. I'm here to represent my neighbors and on Sandra Road. I think there's a few of us here. Hey. And many of you probably know Sandra Road because it's a connecting road from Toad Lane to John Ringo's Road. And it's a beautiful neighborhood. We have the pond, and where the pond is, it's interesting, the fire truck comes every so often and fills up from the water from the pond. So it's an accessible road for farmers that come with equipment. I see, we have our front porch, and Steve and I sometimes are having our coffee, and we watch the traffic, and we also hear how noisy it is from the potholes and the cracks on the road that supposedly had rubber or something that would cushion, for separating, and when the road expands or shrinks or whatever you call it. But it's been, let's see, Steve and I have lived there, 1998, we moved to Sandra Road.
Here's some of my paperwork.
And
This is,
everything okay?
this is just my agenda.
Okay.
Your person.
So we've been there quite a few years, and the road has deteriorated terribly, to the point where, we also have drainage issues, which is a concern, especially now with these rains coming, and we might get more storms. And we're here to see if there would be funding available, stimulus money. I believe there's like $400,000. It's gonna cost like $500,000 to pave our road, which is a lot of money. We understand that, but we really would love to provide a nice, smooth road for farmers to go over there, our landscapers. We have all different kinds of people that go on our street. First of all, you've got Toad Lane, which today is so nice. I saw it was gravelled. I think it's like gravel. And gravel is fantastic, but we need something to help us, because we have, you go by, if you listen, you will hear the trucks go by and the farmers with their equipment, and it's like horrible. You feel like their suspension is gonna fall off the car. So it's pretty bad. And we hope that the mayor and you guys will help us get the funding needed and get this done, because the years go by. It's been like, I would say 30, 40 years since Sandra Road was paved, really. So we really could use your help. And we're here to ask that favor.
It's on the agenda, Julie, and we're going to talk about it shortly after we close to the public.
Okay. Thank
So
you very much.
please make sure you stick around.
Okay, and thank you for everything you guys do for us, for your time and effort.
Thank you.
Tim?
Tim Willie, 25 Bird Lane, resident, chairman, planning board. Thank you all for all the work that you guys have been doing for the residents. I had 2 foot of water. That's nothing compared to what other people have. I lost a washing machine. That's nothing. It was 5 years old. That's nothing compared to what other people, but thank you all for putting everything together that you have. I just want to switch to a different topic. In 2 weeks, we're having a meeting on the acceptability of the marijuana. And I want to know, myself and some of the planning board members want to know how that meeting's going to be run. Whether there's going to be a time for presentations, whether my subcommittee from the planning board is going to be able to speak, or how it's going to run. Is there any plan for it yet, or is that up for debate?
Purpose of the meeting is to get input from residents and other interested people, so anyone who comes and wants to speak will have an opportunity to speak. Depending on how many people show up, that we may have to impose a time limit, but it wouldn't be a 2-minute time limit. If we get 90 people, we might have to say there's a 10-minute time limit. If we don't get that many, then there probably won't be any time limit.
Okay.
But it's for us to get input from the public. So that's how it's going to run. It's going to open to the public, and anyone who wants to speak can speak.
Okay. I'm just, like I said, I had some members of the planning board ask me how it was going to run and whether myself or my members of the subcommittee were going to speak, or just if we're all, how it was going to run. That's all we just wanted to know.
I think that meeting's going to play out one of two ways. We're either going to get very few or very many people. And my instincts are we may wind up getting very many. And I really hope we get very many. I hope we fill this room. And the purpose of the meeting is to get input from the residents.
Are you going to put an agenda out on the website or anything, or so people know what's going on?
There isn't an agenda. It's a special meeting for.
I could do a post, Tim, that says
just so people
know.
You know, I've been waiting so long for this to happen. I just want it to happen the right way. That's all.
Yep.
You know, we've put a lot of work into this, and you know, I want to make sure it's been delayed, and now we have West Amwell that's pushing for things, and I think it's costing us our market share possibly.
Tim, it's really not going to be any different than when we had the other special discussion on the Ridge. So
All right.
it's going to be ran the same type.
Okay.
Same way.
Did you want the subcommittee to make some kind of like presentation or
Well,
something?
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I've had people on my planning board ask me how it's going to go and whether we want to organize a presentation or not. That's why I'm asking.
More than welcome to.
I'm the chairman, so here I am. You know.
We would encourage you to.
Okay, that's what my people want to know. That's all.
Right.
That's cool.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Anyone else from the public? Going once, going twice. Seeing no one else, could I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I like seeing meetings like this with lots of people who come and people who get up and speak. That's how your local government should work. Consent agenda items. Can I have a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda item list?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Castellano.
Oh, sorry,
Yes.
Krista.
Mr. Mills.
Yes.
Ms. Ramsey.
Yes.
Mr. Sobieski.
Yes.
And Mr. Wolf.
Absolutely, yes. Resolutions. We have a few of them tonight. We have 4. The first resolution is regarding the matter we discussed at the last meeting. It is increasing from $35 to $40 the amount that our smoke and carbon monoxide detector inspector receives per inspection. So could I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anybody opposed? Second is a resolution regarding the compensation of our assistant CFO and office assistant, Joe Petrone. Those positions have turned out to be a little more involved than we originally envisioned. And there are also some, would you say, employment law issues that we have to deal with here. So we have a resolution to increase his compensation from $26,000 to $29,900 as the assistant CFO, and from $6,000 to $9,360 as the office assistant. Could I have a motion to approve this resolution?
And he's resigning as the Board of Health Secretary.
and we'll talk about it in a moment, but we have somebody to replace him. So could I have a motion, could I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda is a resolution to hire a secretary for 3 positions: our Farmland and Open Space Preservation Committee, our Agricultural Advisory Committee, and our Board of Health. We interviewed her. We found her to be very impressive. Delaware Township is going to interview her for their Farmland and Open Space Committee to be their secretary, because their prior secretary was also our prior secretary. So when we lost ours, they lost theirs. Could I have a motion to approve this resolution, setting forth the compensation for Ms. Merce, who's going to take these positions?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The last resolution, which I think is going to make a fair number of people happy, has to do with the parking in front of the post office. This has been one of the 2 or 3 banes of my existence over the last 2 years, because I had to deal with NJDOT. I had to deal with NJDOT on the helistop, and I have to deal with NJDOT on the post office parking, and I don't wish upon anybody having to deal with NJDOT. But in any event, the goal was to remove the exclusive bike lane that prohibits any parking in front of the post office on Route 179. So rather than that being an exclusive bike lane, they will make it a share the road. Just for that stretch, so that people will be able to park on the road in front of the post office. Once NJDOT does this, then Mike McGuire is going to really pressure the post office to force its employees to park on the road and leave the spots in front of the post office open for the customers of the post office. Because now when you go there, all the spots in front of the post office are taken up by the employees of the post office. So this is the first step to fixing that problem, so people can park. Mike McGuire is also going to repave that parking lot, because right now that parking lot is almost as bad as Sandra Road. It's not quite as bad, but it's almost as bad. He is going to have that parking lot repaved, and soon. So with a little luck, in the not too distant future, you'll have a much better experience going to our local post office. So this resolution is dictated by NJDOT. It's very badly drafted, but this is the wording they wanted. I ran it by our engineer. Our engineer says that it achieves what we're trying to achieve.
Does it? Because I read it like 5 times.
Yeah, he went through it. And he said,
I literally could not
he said it achieves what we want to achieve.
Okay.
Of opening up for parking in front of the post office. So with that, could I have a motion to approve this much welcome resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I'm just glad it's finally getting done.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. On to ordinances. We have one ordinance tonight, which we are introducing, and that is related to the earlier resolution. We are increasing the fee that we charge for inspection of smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. We're increasing that fee by $5 from $45 to $50, and that's the $5 that will go to the inspector because he hasn't had a raise in more than a decade. So could I have a motion to introduce ordinance 21-17?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Well, any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay.
The ordinance will be published in the September 16th, 2021 issue of the Hunterdon County Democrat, and the public hearing is set for the next regular Township Committee meeting on October 14th, 2021 at 7:30.
Okay, next, we have the Clausen house roof, and before I hand this off to Chris, I just want to make a comment. I had a conversation with Jason Silverthorne this week about the roof on Clausen House. It's a slate roof and it needs to be replaced. To make a long story short, we're waiting to get another estimate from the roofer, because the roofer has told us we do not need to put plywood on the roof. And in fact, putting plywood on the roof is actually not the right thing to do with the slate, that we should continue to attach it the way it's currently attached, and that by not putting plywood on the roof and making a few other changes to the design, we will wind up with a better roof at a significantly lower cost.
Oh, good.
So I am waiting for the roofer to come back with a revised proposal, but obviously, and I was a bit surprised, I shouldn't say obviously, but he's been very busy after the last rainstorm. I wouldn't have thought that the last rainstorm did a lot of damage to roofs, but apparently it did damage, so he's busy. But we should get a revised estimate in the next few weeks, and the expectation is it will be significantly lower than the estimate we're looking at now.
Oh, okay. Is that Strober still, or is it?
Yes.
Really? Because
Yes.
they told me the plywood back in a few months back.
No, this wasn't, this didn't seem right to me. And I talked to Jason about it, and he talked to the roofer, and we're actually better putting the slate over the lathe that's there now.
That's fine. Just
That way, if
You're
water
doing
gets
something
under the slate, the roof will actually dry out more efficiently, and you're less likely to have rot.
all right. Well, that's welcome news, because I think you guys are aware we were trying to look into the faux slate, and I believe Krista forwarded this email I got back from Chris McKell, who was the architect on the building. Just to go through a little bit of backstory, I had applied to the state to get a change of materials so that we could be cleared to use the faux slate instead of the real slate, which is what we were originally approved for with the grant. The state basically kicked it back to me and said, we wanted a few additional items. So I reached out to the architect, and it would have only cost us a couple. He said about $150 an hour. It would have taken him about 2 hours worth of work, so it wouldn't have been too much financially to provide them with what they needed. However, what he also included in this email is that, in his opinion, it's probably very unlikely that the state would have approved the faux slate regardless, so we'd probably just be, chasing our tails. So I get that's where we were with this. I was, originally intended to come back to see what you guys wanted to do, but I mean, if this is moving in the right direction, I guess we, to see what the roofer comes back with, and we'll go from there.
Look, I still believe the faux slate is the best alternative, but I'm not a big fan of tilting at windmills.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I think we're gonna go with the natural slate,
Sounds good to
and
me.
the question is, how do we get it done in the most cost-effective way, and that's what Strober's working
All
on
right,
now.
cool. Glad they changed their mind on how it was gonna work.
Next on unfinished business is Tara, with an update. You had a meeting, I take it, or
I did.
some of you had a meeting with the
Yep, John
county?
and I
Okay.
met with the ARH, which is the consultant and firm that is working on, this is in regards to the Van Loos Bridge, which is bridge number E243 at the intersection of Van Loos and Backbrook. So they held a meeting, gosh, what was it, month and a half ago?
Roughly.
And up at the building on Route 12, is that right?
Yes, by the
Okay.
library.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Still we're not great with the roads.
okay.
So it was held open public meeting. Some of our residents went. I could not attend, and unfortunately, because I'm very passionate and becoming increasingly passionate about this bridge, I live off of Van Loos, which is already a road that this meeting is out of control on. And right now the bridge is a very small, narrow, it's 13 feet, 9.5 inches wide. That bridge it was very old, and the county has approved state funds to actually completely redo and tear down the bridge. So that was the meeting held about a month and a half ago. We brought it up at this township meeting a month ago and said that we had some serious concerns regarding this bridge and what to do with it, and really wanted to voice our concerns around widening the bridge, making it potentially easier to speed up and down Van Loos. And we had some concerned residents as well. So John and I met with the consulting firm, we met with the county, we met with the engineers. The Enton family who had also written, the Enton family lives at the bottom of Van Loos, and they had attended the meeting and are also quite passionate about this project, so I had invited them as well. Unfortunately, they could not join the meeting, but I've been in contact with Bev and with her husband Jeff and gave them this update as well. So the way it stands, guys, is that I actually did confirm that with all of the recent damage to the roads and the bridges, I was actually wondering if this bridge would still even be approved because of what has recently happened. And Mr. Matthews from the county, he did confirm back and write and said that yes, this money has already been approved by the state. So indeed, this bridge will continue and move forward regardless of what is happening with all the other roads and the bridges. So I would say really we started out the meeting just really expressing our concern around this speeding, around any project. The intent of this bridge is to make it a two-way bridge, two-lane bridge, excuse me. It's actually going to be, the proposed width of it is now going to be 30 feet, which essentially doubles the size of it. So it's two 11-foot lines and then with a 3-foot shoulder.
Right, on each side, yeah.
Yeah, and actually that doesn't add up. That's
Adds up to
28. They're proposing
28.
30. We're proposing
Yeah,
28.
We were haggling for the 2 extra.
2 extra inches. 28 is the absolute minimum that the state will now, they have a lot of requirements on bridges. I should have led with that. Any bridge that gets replaced now in the state of New Jersey has to be a 2-lane bridge. There are no 1-lane bridges allowed anymore. It will not be approved by the state or by the county. So that's not an option. So we're fighting for 2 inches, and I shouldn't say fighting, actually the meeting was quite cordial and they do want to hear our feedback. They understand our concerns around speeding. I have a lot of notes here and I'm happy to discuss this with any resident. I've been trying to poll a lot of the different residents up and down Van Loos to make sure that their feedback is also registered with the county, to make sure that they are aware that there are additionally concerned residents. You know, besides myself and the Entons and a few other neighbors. So I would encourage that if you didn't have feedback registered or logged, you know, let myself know or reach out to the county. So basically, at the end of the day, what we really, since we can't argue about it becoming, I would rather keep it a one-lane bridge personally. But since that's not a possibility, and in all fairness, right now that bridge can't withstand fire and rescue vehicles nor school buses. So that's one of the goals of this new bridge as well, is to allow that additional traffic, which will help the town, and I do understand that. There won't be any weight limits on the bridge. The county wants to build this bridge to last forever, was their feedback. So, but we do have some options as a town, and that's what I really wanted to talk about. And so what you know, John and I basically said, what are our options here, right? Because we don't want to increase speeding. We actually want to stop the speeding. We want to make sure there are 2 bus stops right around that bridge that our kids are getting on and off every single day. And honestly, now with Manners Road, unfortunately, the severe damage of Manners Road, the traffic on Van Loos has like doubled. I don't even know. I mean, I'm out on that road pretty much every day, and it's not safe. So the traffic has increased exponentially over the past week, and I don't see that as a trend. That's not going to continue. So they gave us a few ideas and a few options, of which we are pursuing right now. The first and foremost is they highly recommend a 3-way stop sign. So right now there's a stop sign on the Backbrook side, right? At the Backbrook. Now there would be one at the Van Loos as you're entering the bridge, and on the other side. So it essentially becomes a 3-way stop sign. Unfortunately, these silly rules that we have in our state, these stop signs can't actually be part of this bridge project for some reason. It actually has to come from the town. So what John and I have done is we got the name of the individual, Mr. Burrs, I believe.
Yeah, he's our township engineer.
Township engineer, that we can start an immediate traffic study of this intersection, which will therefore enable us to put stop signs in.
So let me just jump in real
Thanks,
quick.
John.
I spoke to Bill today. He hadn't reviewed those plans from the county, so he was going to reach out to Mr. Matthews, take a look at those plans, and I asked for his feedback with respect to a traffic study with regard to potentially putting additional stop signs there. So he asked for a couple of days. He's going to get back to me, and then I'll come back to the committee and report. But he was as concerned as we are
Good.
with the closing of Manners Road and Van Loo. So we're gonna have a situation on our hands where people are gonna be cutting through either Cider Mill or maybe as far as Dutch.
Yes.
So we're gonna have an issue, and unfortunately, I probably talk to Chief Kane at least once a week. And we have always been able to rely on Delaware Township for assistance, whether it be Lindbergh Road, whether it be John Ringo's Road. But they have their challenges now, as the mayor said. A lot of their roadways are severely damaged as well. So we're probably gonna have to reach out to the state police, which I'll do at Kingwood, and see if we can tap into those resources. But it's gonna be a challenge. I think somebody had mentioned 17 bridges in the county have had significant damage. So we're gonna have to do the best we can with what we got.
Yeah. Yeah, so originally the thought had been that we would, implement these stop signs as the bridge came down, and when the new bridge comes up, which will be probably not until 2022, what we're trying to do now is make that actually happen immediately. So we would not wait for the new bridge to have the new stop signs. They also recommended a few other things, like speed bumps. We can actually potentially lower the speed limit on Van Loos. We can put those flashing light signs. We could actually, there's been some success in Raritan where they've put signs like no trucks on this road, local deliveries only, things like that. So, I obviously I think everyone can sense that I'm super, super passionate about this, because the speeding was bad before. It's so much worse now, and now we're going to have a bridge double the size of the one that we have. So we have to do something about that, and about these and about the speeding up and down this road. So we will continue to work on this. We'll come back when we have updates that warrant being on the agenda. If anyone has any questions, concerns, or feedback, reach out to John or I, and we'd be happy to talk to you guys about it.
And we're really going to ask for the residents' input, because the county doesn't really care if it's a truss bridge or if it's a modern stone type facade bridge. So the folks that live there, hopefully they'll come out and let the county know what it is that they prefer. So
Yeah.
I was encouraged that they weren't trying to jam it down our throat. The modern bridge, being less maintenance, which is their responsibility.
Which is really
They,
quite unappealing to the eye, the
So,
concrete one, right? So
if folks do want traditional looking, older truss bridge, that can certainly happen. So that's a good thing.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is our new business. I'm going to tinker with the order a little bit. I'm going to first address Sandra Road. Sandra Road was built in 1978, and it was not done properly like most roads in developments. The developers come in and they do the road as cheaply as they can. So Sandra Road is now 43 years old and it's never been repaved. Sandra Road is a mess, and that's putting it mildly. It's like an inner tube that's nothing but patches. You can't see the original inner tube anymore. There are drainage issues, there are settlement issues, there are issues being safe for cyclists. It's not ADA compliant. There are a whole host of issues with Sandra Road. Until recently, I had assumed that what we call our development roads were going to continue to languish, and other municipalities are having the same issues. You can't get grants from the state to do development roads. The state's grants are for roads that have significant traffic. So you don't get grants. And so the roads, Sandra Road, Harvest Hill, what's called Carousel Estates, those roads, we're never going to get a grant to redo those roads. And to redo them the right way, it's going to be ridiculously expensive. But lo and behold, we're getting almost $404,000 of federal aid. We received the first half this year. We'll receive the next half in 2022. And we anticipate what we get in 2022 will be the same as 2021. So we're going to get $404,000. And the question is, what are you going to do with the $404,000? Well, you're very restricted on what you can do, and we've discussed that in the past with our CFO. And it doesn't look like the government is going to make that any more liberal. But one thing is pretty clear: you can use the money for roads. So this is my view. I reached out to Jason Silverthorne, our DPW supervisor, and asked him to work with our engineer to come back with an estimate of what it would cost to do Sandra Road. I told them to err on the high side because I want to know the practical worst case scenario. I don't want to get an estimate for X and then when it comes time to go out to bid, the bids come in at 2X. Because then we'll waste a lot of time planning for something we can't do. So the estimate that I have here is the high end. We do not expect it to cost this much. But the estimate I have in front of me to do Sandra Road, hard costs, $495,183.20. So let's say round it to $495. The soft costs, which really are the engineering costs, our engineers said should not be more than $50,000, or approximately 10% of the hard costs. So we're talking about roughly $545,000. We have 400 and around 5. That leaves us short 140. Our CFO tells us, given that we put capital aside every year for capital improvements, she didn't see an issue with us setting aside $100,000 next year to do Sandra. That would leave us about $40,000 short. Now the estimate is on the high end, so I suspect we won't be 40 short. We'll be something significantly less than 40 short, and we may actually be nothing short. But to me, this is our one chance to do Sandra Road. We're never going to be able to put $500,000 or $540,000 into a road on our regular budget. It isn't going to happen. So what I am proposing is that we give the okay to Jason to go ahead and start doing planning to redo Sandra Road. Now, when I say redo Sandra Road, I'm not talking just about Sandra Road. This would pick up Hart Lane, the circles, and we're not just redoing the road. The drainage would be redone. The road would be ADA compliant. The grades would be safe for dogs to walk over, cyclists, etc. These would be current code, not 43-year-old code. So, and this road would be done right, so that this road should go another 40 years without problems. Chip sealing is not an option for Sandra Road. Sandra Road is one of the roads in the township that is beyond chip sealing. We have a number of roads that are beyond chip sealing. They can't be addressed with chip sealing. So, in terms of a long-term perspective, what I'd like to do is focus right now on Sandra Road. But then I'd like to also each year start setting some money aside so that we can next tackle Harvest Hill, which I think will be significantly less expensive than Sandra because it's not as long. But Harvest Hill is degrading. They're having drainage issues. That road is getting old. And then we can start tackling some of the other, what I call development roads. But we have to do something with these roads. And not that the fact you pay a lot of taxes should necessarily dictate what you get, but you have really nice homes on Sandra Road, some of the nicest homes in East Amwell. Those folks are paying a lot of money in taxes, and their road is falling apart. and that's going to impact the value of their properties. Julie was not exaggerating. Go stand there for a while and watch when the landscaping trucks drive over that road. All you hear is ba-bang, ba-bang, bang, ba-bang, bang, ba-bang, bang. One landscaper told me he blew out a shock on Sandra Road. Okay. Jason said if the township committee gives the okay, if everything went really well, it's possible we could be in a position to do Sandra Road by next fall. Because there's a lot that has to go into actually getting ready to stick a shovel in the ground. You don't just walk out there and start repaving. Planning has to go into it. It'll take the engineer a while to do the planning. But he said if everything went really well, we could do it next fall. Worst case, the following spring. So my question is, do I tell Jason, let's move forward with this? If you want to see the estimate, I have it. I can send it to you. I have two estimates. One is if we join a co-op, the other is if we don't. Joining the co-op will save us about $100,000, and it will cost us $1,500 to join the co-op, so it's pretty much a no-brainer. But what do we want to do?
I mean, that's a big chunk of change we're talking. I mean, granted, it is coming from the stimulus package, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to pull the trigger on making a decision tonight on it. Oh, I mean, what would Jason be doing? Just doing the preliminary planning work? So it wouldn't really be eating up any of that funding, at least to start with, correct?
No, I mean, we'd be authorizing the engineer to start working on the project, so we'd be paying the engineer. And it doesn't make sense to pay the engineer, you know, we'll start to add up to thousands of dollars only to say, nah, we don't want to do it.
Rick, does Jason and the DPW have a priority of roads currently, or Sandra evidently is at the top of the list, but do we have, you just mentioned a couple of roads that you'd like to address. Is that the opinion of the DPW?
Yes.
Is Sandra Road the worst road in the township?
When we got this stimulus money,
I know you think so.
when we got the stimulus money, I raised it, and the government put out the first pronouncement on the stimulus money, where it was pretty clear in the first pronouncement that you could use this for roads and that you weren't going to be able to use it for a lot of other things. I went to Jason and said, what would be your first choice in terms of a road that's beyond chip seal that really needs to get done? And he didn't even hesitate. He said Sandra Road. And I mean, I've been on Sandra Road. It's bad. It literally is nothing but patches. And it's a relatively long road, and it has circles, so we're covering a big area. But the other thing is the population density. In terms of bang for buck, we're getting a lot of bang for our buck here, because this isn't a road that's 2 miles long with 3 houses on it. This is pretty densely populated for East Amwell. So there are a number of factors that go into the analysis. This isn't a shoot from the hip. This is something that I myself have given a lot of thought to. I've had a number of discussions with Jason, with Margaret. I have talked to people who live on Sandra Road to get their input, because not everybody wants a new road. My road is worse than Sandra Road, and I want my road to be left the way it is, but I'm not in the situation they're in. Okay? Not everybody wants a new road, but the impression I have is that the people on Sandra Road, I'm not going to say everyone because I haven't spoken to everyone, but I think the vast majority would really like a new road. And a lot of people would like a new road, but I think Sandra Road really needs to be done, and this is our shot. If we don't do it now, it's not getting done.
Well, I think, look, $500,000 in our budget's a lot of money. I know it's government money. I mean, I'd like to speak with Jason, I wanna look at the numbers.
Agreed.
Just fair, I just can't, make a decision on $500,000 like now.
No.
That's
You know,
perfectly reasonable.
I'm not
We
saying
could-
no, but, we have to look at it. I mean, our budget's only a couple $1,000,000 as it is, and this represents an enormous chunk of it. So in all fairness, we need to review the numbers, ask Jason.
Yeah.
So, and then I think, come back next month and, with a decision.
You should feel free to chat with
Yeah,
Jason.
that's what I would like.
I can have Chris, the estimates in and of themselves are just line
Yeah,
items
just
and
numbers, I
numbers,
know,
but I can
But
send
still
you
have
what
some
we have.
reference in front of us if you send it to us.
And, but I would like to I'd like to go thumbs up or thumbs down on this as soon as we can. So that, because otherwise, like I said, Sandra Road is never getting done. We're not gonna be able to do this without some sort of aid, and this is the only aid we're getting.
All right, well, the money's there, but, so let's just take a look at the numbers and, kind of work them on and see what we say.
That's fine. But let's do what homework you need to do. It would be nice if we can make a decision next month.
Yeah,
I'll put it on the agenda for next month.
Perfect.
definitely, fair enough.
Okay. And if any other residents want to come in and give input, thumbs up or thumbs down, let your neighbors know that we're going to talk about this next month.
Also, there's a lot of young families moving in, and it's nice, you see the little kids and they ride their bicycles and stuff. And it's a little rough out there, yeah? No, they don't much anymore. We used to see bicyclists out, but not anymore. I know, it's just, it's a beautiful community, and we really want it, we really hope that the township will help us out.
Thank you for coming in. Okay, next on the agenda is, actually, I'll go in reverse order because the next one I think is pretty quick. Best practices is that you put out requests for proposals every year with respect to your professionals. Doesn't mean you're looking to change the municipal professionals, but you solicit proposals from other professionals who are interested in taking on the work for East Amwell, mainly to see what services they'll offer at what rates. We didn't do RFPs last year. We had switched a lot of our professionals, most of them the year before, and we felt that we should give our professionals some time to prove themselves before we go back out for RFPs. So we didn't do it last year. But we do like to stay as close to best practices as we can. And so Krista asked me a few weeks ago, are we going to go out for RFPs, and suggested that we probably should. And I agree. So I wouldn't think this is contentious. We just want to prepare the package, which we do internally, to go out for proposals for our professionals, our municipal lawyer, our planning board lawyer, our engineer, etc. And we have packages from the last time we did this, so we'll probably just copy those. We publish them, we get proposals, the township committee looks at the proposals, and then we decide, do we want to keep our existing professionals? Do we want to switch? Do we want to interview? Whatever. So is the township committee okay if in November/December we publish and go out with RFPs?
It would be more like October.
That's fine.
Maybe we didn't do it last year, we should.
Yeah.
Everybody okay with that?
Keep it fresh.
Tara?
Yes,
Chris is blocking your head, so I can't see.
My
There you go.
I'm smiling, yes. It's a good
Okay,
idea.
then, Krista, let's go ahead with that. Next on the agenda is something that Chris Sobieski requested, which is to discuss a resident request for proclamation against a mask mandate.
Yeah, so I was approached by a couple residents who have students at the high school. And from what I understand, the high school is considering bucking Governor Murphy's order requiring all students to wear masks in the school. And the residents, asked if we would consider writing a letter to the school board, in support of them, bucking the governor essentially. So, I don't know what to tell her. Frankly, at least for me personally, I think that, it's a very personal choice, and I take serious issue when the government, at any level starts to get involved with what people do with their bodies. And so I would, kind of support the idea of issuing this letter they're requesting. So I don't know what the rest of you think. And
Well, I think
My
the
thoughts?
genesis for this is that the governor's putting out a blanket mandate.
Exactly.
And what they're looking for is something called home rule,
Yes.
which is looking at the local numbers, et cetera, because our numbers versus, say, even percentage-wise versus a highly densely populated area like Newark or Camden or wherever it happens to be, he wants to use the same rule for highly density and us as a rural community. Now, our grammar school's already set up for all the COVID protocols, and we haven't really had any cases in the grammar school. And they relaxed the, right, Elson, they relaxed the mask rule at the end of the year anyway, right? And why other areas were maintaining full mask, et cetera. I mean, I'm all for home rule. I don't think you can just make a blanket statement and say
Exactly.
everybody's the same, et cetera. And even Dr. Moore from the high school basically was saying that they use numbers from the CDC, the Hunterdon County Medical Center, the Hunterdon County Board of Health, et cetera. And he even agreed right now that they don't have enough data to go to a home rule. But I think it's, even he's kind of implied that they're not asking for the numbers yet. So if they think they can get the numbers concise enough, that he will be in full backing, I think, of a home rule for the high school. And I'm all for it because we have a daughter in high school, and I don't really want to see her going to school in a mask every single day if the numbers really don't warrant it. So that's my opinion.
Chris, do you know where the other 4 sending districts stand with respect to the high school?
As far as I'm aware, what I was told is that they haven't done anything, so we might be the first, but, you know, I don't necessarily have a problem with that, at least, that's me. I don't know about the rest of you guys. The other thing, I was told potentially a couple parents and kids might come to the meeting. Are there any in attendance who wanted to speak up, or? No? Okay, I guess not. Oh. Yeah, okay. Well, never mind.
You want to speak up?
Me?
Hmm?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with it. I think it's, like Mark said, you know, like, we're not, why do we need to operate as fast as the slowest ship, ultimately? It's not, you know, we're not the same as any of these other areas that have a lot more issues than we do. And ultimately, 2 weeks before school was about to start, both East Amwell and the high school had sent emails home and issued the statement that we were opening with optional masks. And it was only the governor coming down on that and really changing that across the board for the state that stopped both of those schools going ahead with their own plans. I mean, they were fully prepared to open that way. So, you know, nobody is pushing for a no mask rule. That's not what it is. It's allowing the district to assess their own district's data and make their own decision based on our own district, not based on the state as a whole. So,
okay, that's how
you know,
okay.
I think it's
Kind
something
of misunderstood the premise here.
you know,
Okay.
it's something that really is worth considering, and both schools, well, no, I shouldn't say both schools. The high school seems to be, they polled the Board of Education at their meeting. It was a kind of split opinion at the meeting, but, you know, I think, you know, we had one resident, we have our East Amwell representative on the Board of Education, who she crunches data for our area, and she's been doing it all through COVID and putting it out for everyone to see. And, you know, even she is basically in agreement that if they have access to the right data, then they should, you know, she agrees that it would be the right thing to let the district make a decision. And that's not, you know, the emphasis isn't on let every parent make the decision, this is what we do. It's the school making the decision, not, you know, the district, so to say.
Yeah.
So, I'm in agreement.
Okay. Anybody else?
So would we be doing this for just the high school, or because I mean our elementary is elementary and middle, it's K through 8, so
well,
would it be both?
I mean, I was only approached about the high school. I'm not too sure what the elementary
The
school
grammar
is.
school usually follows the high school. I mean, that's the way, you know.
If we're doing it, I would ask that we might do it for both.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation. It's
I mean, you know,
they're separate
okay with it.
entities, right? So it's separate people. If we're going to do it for one, I think we should do it for both. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But the two aren't fungible. There's a big difference between high school and grammar school, at least right now.
Yeah, but the East Amwell School is a very, very small school with, as Mark mentioned, has had plexiglass in place. They're practicing socially distance at lunch right now. I mean, I know it
But what
from-
is the difference I'm referring to?
I don't know.
Well, that's what I was trying to get to. The big difference between the two is that kids under 12 years old right now can't get vaccinated. Kids over 12 years old can. So I don't necessarily treat the two as fungible. I will tell you, I had probably the same residents who reached out to you reach out to me first. And I did not feel like I was qualified to take a position on this. I'm not a scientist. The CDC, and I checked again today, says the following. Given new evidence on the B.1.617.2 Delta variant, CDC recommends universal indoor masking for all teachers, staff, students, and visitors to K through 12 schools, regardless of vaccination status. That's the CDC recommendation. So the CDC's recommendation is consistent with what Governor Murphy did. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of Governor Murphy, and I've been very critical of Governor Murphy, and I'm on Governor Murphy's shit list, because when we were having the mayor calls, I was trashing them about some of their guidelines. But I will tell you, having navigated this town through the coronavirus and having had to make some very difficult decisions about what we do with this municipal building, I don't want to be responsible for one of our employees dying of COVID. And I certainly don't want to be responsible for a child dying. And I know the statistics say only 400 children have died from COVID. But the chair of the CDC said kids aren't supposed to die. So saying only 400 is a bit of a misnomer. Kids aren't supposed to die. And I don't know that any of the people here have sufficient background to really be making this kind of decision. So what I said when two people reached out to me feeling very passionate about this and wanting me to stand up, and you know I'm willing to stand up for the residents. I'm willing to stand up to the point where I get sued and go to court. But I'm not qualified to make this decision. I'm not qualified to second guess the CDC or to second guess our governor on this. And I don't want to have to look at a parent whose child dies. And if you think I'm exaggerating, check out this morning's Good Morning America. What was the first story? The growing number of children getting COVID was the first story on Good Morning America this morning. It's taking off, kids getting COVID. So I'm not comfortable with this. I'm extremely uncomfortable, and I'm not taking a position either way. I'm really not. But I'm not comfortable with this body saying it's okay for kids not to wear masks to school.
Well, I don't think, to be fair, Rick, I hear what you're saying and I understand your points, but I think the question we're presented with is not whether or not we think kids should or shouldn't be wearing masks. At least as I understand it, it's whether the school should be the one to make that decision or the governor should be the one to make that decision. So, I mean, I err on the side of localism, right? Like, we don't like when the state comes and bullies us and tells us what to do. I think the same thing goes for the school board, and if they want some support, I'm more than willing to lend it to them.
If you take that to its logical extension, then our federal government folds. We have a federal government because we've come to the conclusion that certain decisions have to be made on a centralized basis for the entire country. We have a state government because we've come to the conclusion that certain decisions have to be made on a centralized basis for the entire state. And my guess is that the state has access to far greater expertise than our school district. And the fact that the state is acting consistent with the CDC guidelines, to me, reinforces that the state has better access. Saying it's okay for a school board to make a different decision, to say kids don't have to wear masks or it's optional, is going against the CDC's recommendation. And I checked their website today. This is still their current recommendation.
Well, to be fair to the CDC, and look, I think there's a lot of good professionals there. I believe at first they actually discouraged masks, no, back in early March, and then they changed their tune. So look,
let me tell you something Marty Ginsburg taught me. Most of what I know about being a lawyer, I learned from Marty. Wisdom should not be denigrated simply because it comes later rather than sooner, because it so rarely ever comes at all. So the fact that the CDC initially was against masks and then later changed to masks, I applaud the CDC for willing to admit that its initial view was wrong. And I can tell you there's been more than one issue that I've encountered on this township committee where I started with one view, and then as I worked on it and spent more time working on it, my view changed. And that's a good thing. So the fact that the CDC started one place and has ended up in a different place is a good thing. Just like the fact that Fauci has had statements early on that are very different than his statements today, that to me is a good thing. It shows that he's willing to admit mistakes. This COVID is something new for everybody, so I would expect people's views to change as time goes on. So I don't hold it against the CDC that they originally said no masks.
I don't either. I'm just saying, sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong.
Right, but
it's something to consider in the
but in the end, you have to look to somebody to make a decision, and
yes.
They are much more qualified than I am. I took a lot of classes in law school. Not one of them involved COVID. Not one of them involved how to handle a pandemic. Mm-hmm. This is what these people do. And they are saying quite clearly, universal indoor masking for all teachers, staff, students, and visitors in K-12 schools, regardless of vaccination status. That's unambiguous.
Okay. They might be right, they might not be. I'm just of the opinion that the school board should be the one to listen to the CDC, and it shouldn't be Governor Murphy dictating that to them. So that's where I stand. Anyone else have any opinions?
I hate to take the easy way out, but I don't have a horse in the race. I don't really have an opinion one way or the other. I'm just sorry I can't add anything more to it, but I just if I had kids in the high school, I would probably have a very strong opinion, but I don't, and I don't want to just be a talking head,
Yeah. Oh. Mark, there.
I would say too, though, I think bringing it to the township committee is one thing. I think if there are residents that are concerned, either way, they should be going to the school board. And I don't know how many people are, there's not very much attendance at them. I think the high school one, there has been a lot lately.
Probably recently, yes.
But the East Albemarle Township School, they are not well attended. So I would really encourage, because we really can't do anything. We could write a letter, but that's about it, right? And they could not listen to us and discard it, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But I would really encourage residents, if they feel passionately about this, they should be going to their school board. Those are elected positions as well. Those are elected individuals that are elected by our town, and people should be voicing their opinions to those individuals as well. That would be my feedback also.
I think you're correct. Well, we're still presented with the question, do we send the letter, yes or no? And so.
I think we can't, if we're not 100% agreement, I don't think we can. You can send it as an individual.
Okay. Fair
Which
enough.
I will.
But as a body, yeah.
Yeah, as body, I don't think we can
Okay.
do this in all fairness.
All right. Is that everyone else's position? Got to be unanimous?
That's my opinion,
Okay, fair enough.
Yep.
Right?
I fretted over this with our municipal employees. Krista will tell you, I fretted over this. I don't want to do anything that's going to put one of our employees in harm's way.
All right, so what I'm saying is, if
And I
we're not
don't-
all in agreement, then.
Yep.
I just
Right.
can't, the last thing I want is to see a kid die from COVID in East
Okay, so-
Amwell.
So we're all in
I don't
agreement,
think
we're not
anybody
gonna take
really wants
action.
that to happen, so, okay. So
Right,
we're not
well-
doing it.
Well, Mark, if you want to co-op a letter with me,
Yeah, I'm fine.
yeah. Yeah, we won't, obviously we won't include the rest of you guys, but, you know, we'll let our voices be heard.
And look, I apologize to those that have a different view. I really do,
Well,
but
But that's, the whole point
I-
of this thing is everybody's got different views, and it's
Exactly.
fine, you know, so
Yeah.
we just choose. It's whether you choose to get vaccinated or not vaccinated, mask, no mask, so it's an opinion, and fine, then we'll move on, and
That's the beauty of America.
this is awesome, yeah.
Choice
So-
and freedom.
okay, we are now, I guess, up to the second open to the public. Can I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Good evening. Greg Toronto, 10 Sandra Road. I live about a half a mile from the pothole that has the family of 4 living in it. That pothole cost me $890 of damage to your front of her car.
You're
Because we have a
serious.
lifetime warranty on her car. As long as you don't inflict the damage, they pay for everything. Thank you, Chrysler. But they said that we hit a pothole and they wouldn't cover our blown strut and shock and some other crap that was done. So I am the one that has painted the orange circles around the potholes. I am the one.
Actually, you know what? That's a nice thing that you did, because you can't see them at night.
You cannot see them.
So if you put an orange, if you put fluorescent orange, people could see it at night.
Fluorescent orange, so if you're gonna fine me for degrading your property, I apologize.
We will not.
Send a fine to somebody else, please. Okay,
But we can get Jason to fill the
so I really
potholes.
appreciate everybody's input on Sandra Road. You know, we moved there in '99. I live in Mrs. Stahl's old house. And we moved there in '99. I said, boy, this road stinks. And it has done nothing but go downhill. So, you know, Rick, Mr. Wolf, I appreciate
No,
your...
Rick, not
uh,
Mr. My
Rick.
dad's Mr. Wolf,
Yeah,
I'm Rick.
I say the same, I say the same thing. So, you know, I really, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it, and certainly we want it to come through. We want, you know, that road is ugly. I don't know how many people, but like Julie was saying a minute ago, you know, we're a major cut through. Anybody who lives on 604 that's gonna go 31 north, they're coming down our road and making that loop. So, you know, when our kids were getting on the school bus for all those years, you know, that line of traffic coming through is unsubstantial. Unsubstantial. I'm a numbers guy, not a verbal guy. I apologize. Okay, so that's my preaching on Sandra. Number 2, Rick, I appreciate that you're a lawyer. I appreciate your concern for people's lives. But I also learned one thing when I was taking my law classes in college from Mr. Fox or Dr. Fox, and he said you can never legislate tragedy out of life. So don't beat yourself up over a decision, because we have drug-free zones. Yet I can tell you, cocaine and heroin is rampant in our country. We have no child rape, and you have child trafficking. There is no thing that you can pass here today. There is nothing you could say, mask, vaccine, I don't care what it is, that somebody won't die. You could never legislate 100% of people healthy. Can't do it. So you have to make the decisions that make the most sense. And I am big on home rule and freedom. I think what President Biden is ordering, where everybody has to be vaccinated, my personal opinion, I think it's crazy. You should not. Freedom starts with you being having the right to have a different opinion, to have the ability to talk, converse, disagree, and agree, and make your own path in life. And that means people will die, and people will disagree until we become the people that were shoved on a train and dumped into Auschwitz. That's what you become if you don't stand up. So do not let somebody's, you know, opinion sway you to the to a side that you don't want to take. Stand up for yourself. You can never legislate freedom. You can never legislate tragedy out of life. Now, Tara is passionate about bridges. I just learned that today. Anybody that knows me knows that I am passionate about one thing more than anything on this planet, It is the entire reason I am trying to move out of this state. You guys dump pounds of salt on the roads. These roads have been salted 23 times in 2 years when there's been no precipitation. I am a car fanatic. I love cars. I love cars probably more than anything else on this planet. Okay? I've
More than your wife?
12. We have 12 cars. I have 12 cars now, okay? And I can drive one during the winter because, and I know what it costs. It's $168, at least it was 2 years ago. $168 per hour to salt the roads. The damage to Sandra Road, you don't think, besides age, you don't think salt had something to do with it? I just had to replace half my sidewalk at my office from the salting of our walkway, okay? Salt destroys cars, roads, vegetation, aqualife, creeks, destroys everything. I don't know who's in charge of it, but you guys got to get this under control. Because when they're salting, there was a pile of salt on the corner of 202 and Old York Road one day that I had to drive. I had to put my truck in four-wheel drive and raise it 2 inches to get over it. It was literally, and I kid you not, this high, a pile of salt, because the truck stopped, had the back tilted, and just kept pouring out, and pouring out, and pouring out, and pouring out. So, if anything, you want to cut, but you want to find money to pave a road, cut out $168 an hour from 23 times, and how many miles of road do we have? So that's my pet peeve, Tara, to go along with yours about
Salt and bridges, got it.
bridges. And it eats away the bridges. Salt loves steel. So, but thank you very much for your time. I appreciate all the work and effort. Thank you.
On your third pet peeve,
Yes.
in March, I joined the Board of Trustees of Raritan Headwaters.
Okay.
And one of the big issues that Raritan Headwaters is focusing on now is the salt on the roads. And one of the big problems is what you've described, which is the salt trucks that dump the pile. And not infrequently, the pile's getting dumped by streams because streams tend to be located at places where the trucks will stop to turn or whatever, and when they stop, they dump. And then it all goes into the streams.
Right.
But I agree with you on the salting. It destroys a lot of things, and Raritan Headwaters wants to start working with the municipalities on best practices. And to the extent I have any say in the matter, this township will work with them on best practices.
Yeah.
So that we can balance safety, that people can, our teachers, our first responders, et cetera,
I
can
get
get
it.
out safely versus over salting.
I get it. We never salted in '93. We had a storm, and I know anybody that lived here knows, it stormed every Tuesday night. We had ice. You know why? Do you know what car I drove back then? And I still own it? A 1988 Pontiac Fiero, which is about this high off the ground.
I know what it is.
And I would call home to my mother and father and I'd say, I got to wait for a plow truck to go by because I can't get out. If I could drive an 88 Fiero, rear-wheel drive, mid-engine car, through 25 ice storms with no salting, back then, we could do it today. Common sense. The problem is, and I'm going to say this with tongue in cheek, but I think it was Chris Christie's fault because he had to go get a cheeseburger, and he didn't want to drive. He didn't want to drive 25 miles an hour to get to the White Rose System in Highland Park. He wanted to make sure he can get there at 95 miles an hour. So his mandate was to salt the damn road so that he could drive 95 miles an hour. And I was 17 years old. 16 years old. I was in my brother's truck. My brother's a builder. He lives in Montana, probably because of the salt. But he lives in Montana, and I was working for him through high school and college. And we're on 202 right across from ShopRite, heading south. And it's snowing. And we're in a four-wheel drive construction truck, and we're doing 35 miles an hour. And some Yahoo in an Audi Avant comes flying by at 55 miles an hour. And my brother said, that's why we shouldn't plow the roads. Because those people are the ones that cause the accidents. Because those people think they're invincible because they have four-wheel drive and the roads were plowed. And I go back in 1993, if I could drive the entire winter in a Pontiac Fiero, we don't need salt. Case closed.
Thank you.
I'm not a lawyer.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate all the work, guys. Thanks.
Anyone else? Yes. come on forward.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I agree with the.
Frida, name and
Frida
address.
Ralph, One Linville Road. Regarding COVID. And I can't tell you how much I hate the mask, how much I hated my life. Since COVID happened, I had only been a widow about 3 months, so you can imagine the isolation and stuff. But I am a very healthy person, and I wore the mask because I was afraid, not that I was going to get sick, because I probably would just have a minor reaction, but that I would give it to someone else. And so I wore the mask when I had to wear the mask. I had the shot, I had the second shot, and then 2 weeks ago, I caught a cold. I had not had a cold in probably 20 years. I had a COVID test before I would do anything anymore, because God help us if I got the D variant and gave it to somebody else. Turned out it was a cold and I got a negative. But I'll have the boosters. It's just like the flu, you know, and I don't think that school boards and local municipalities should be making decisions. It should be left to the experts. And I have friends that are paranoid about COVID. I have friends that will refuse to wear a mask, refuse to be vaccinated, and everybody has their own opinion. But my feeling is that when it comes to our children and they deserve a free education, they should be allowed to go to schools without fear. And I think you need to trust the experts to continue to read the statistics as they roll in, and statistics have their errors. There's false positives. There's people who have been diagnosed as having died of COVID that didn't, and there are people that died that didn't, that had COVID that weren't diagnosed as COVID. But let the experts make the decision as to where the country should be. And one prime example was, you know, way back, the Spanish flu in 1918, there were places like New York that hunkered down and stopped social stuff. There's pictures of people wearing masks, and Philadelphia chose not to cancel the Mummers Parade, and lots and lots of people died. So I think, you know, let the experts make the decisions on what we do to protect ourselves for this pandemic. And it's a new thing. It's never, you know, and until either 80% of people are vaccinated or are immune in some way or another, there's not going to be herd immunity. And this D variant, and there's another variant beyond that that's cropped up, and you know, it just may be that everybody has to start having a COVID vaccine, booster vaccine every year. But who knows, you know, but I don't think I don't think municipalities, local school boards should be making the decision on masks. I think it should be based on the experts in the field.
Thank you. Francis?
Alison Castellano, 9 Park Court. I just want to clarify something similar to that conversation. Is that, and if you want, anyone wants to look at the meeting video of the Board of Ed last month, I can send it to them. Dr. Moore did a full presentation on opening school and looking at COVID and assessing the situation. They don't make the decision. They don't make the decision on their own. They are fully intertwined with the Huntston Health Department and Health Department statistics that are coming down from above. They're not looking to totally make their decision, by themselves. They're working with local government. You know, and as we said, the local government and the statistics that we have here are different from the state. So I just wanted to confirm that, because, you know, I don't want everyone to think that the Board of Ed are waving the flag here and they're not qualified. Of course they're not qualified. They never said they were. And that's why they tap into very closely with the local health department. And that's why Dr. Moore said that he, at the moment, didn't feel qualified to make that decision, because what's the point? Like, they don't have the ability to make that decision. So the information there, they're not even really asking for full information, because it doesn't matter. The governor's made the decision for everybody. So, you know, just so you know, they're not sitting there single-handedly trying to wave that flag. Like I said, it's worth watching. If you're interested, it is worth watching the Board of Ed meeting, because he does a good presentation on it all. And you can hear everyone's opinions. You can hear all the opinions of all the Board of Ed members. Some are for, some against the idea. So, you know, let me know. I can always send anybody the video link for that. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Francis?
Take 5 minutes. Yeah. Francis Gavigan, 123 Wurtzville Road. I applaud the residents of Sandra Road for finally getting up and coming and saying, we want something done. I'm a little surprised some of my neighbors, I'm on the county road, so I get salted and everything else. Around the corner on Harvest Hill Road don't come out too. My question is, if I heard the mayor correctly, it's do nothing or spend our money plus a little that we're getting on federal benefits to do Sandra, but also upgrade the drainage, fit to this, ADA available. We just did Linvale Road, and it's a pretty nice resurfaced road right now. Is there a middle ground to where someone could consider the economics of repaving Sandra so you don't have to have spotlights and fluorescent bulbs and everything else there around your four-person manhole cover, and be able to maybe do more with less? Not to diss you,
I'm all for it.
but, you know, maybe to see what we can do for both, and then maybe get some, also maybe some designations, since you certainly testified here that you have become not just a community road, but you are a transport road where traffic moves from point A to point B the same way Lindbergh Road is, in which case some county money or other federal money could be obtained or designated. The one thing I learned in the years that I was in Washington is how you phrase it, how you parse it. Perception is reality. We've got a congressman who might be inclined to help us not just with our flooding or other things, especially since I saw the stuff that he apparently got flooded too. But that we could try to get the win-win-win and have a little money left over or put it to some of the other places. If you want to feel better about Sandra Road, go up Rocktown Road. But people who live there, they don't want it, the dirt part. And I don't blame them, I understand. As for the culture wars and the mask to not mask, you know, vaccine, not vaccine, you know, I've been in the sciences for 44 years, but I'm not, you know, not going to touch that dog with a 10-foot pole because it's politicized. It's, you will give me a shot over my dead cold body versus, oh, well, the science indicates that there could be some advantages of. For my own self, I get vaccinated, I will get a booster. I try to behave responsibly if I am around or in enclosed because I've got Catholic guilt. Now, that's not a known disease state, but if someone were to get sick, God forbid die, because I was cavalier about it, without living on Cavalier Court, I would feel horrible. So, you know, I was in contact with some people who had been in Houston, you know, and I quarantined and I got a COVID test and it was clear and all of that other stuff. Somebody else came back from Houston, gave their partner COVID, and he died. You know, are we responsible for our own selves? And are we sensitive to the concerns, the needs of others and the fears of others, or the health constraints of those? You know, Bob Rowe and stuff was here earlier in a little oxygen tank. I don't know if he's had COVID or not, but there are people who are lucky to be alive and have been sicker than dogs with this thing. And, you know, so if a little discomfort on my part or our parts can minimize that, so be it. But, you know, I'm not gonna turn it into a constitutional crisis. I have to go to the TV for that one. But, and in terms of what attorneys or different people have taught you, the one rule of thumb that I learned down south where my family's from is there's dumber than dirt and you can't fix stupid. Stupid is as stupid does. So please, Lord, let's all try not to be stupid and to be considerate of one another. And you started this meeting demonstrating how everybody has come together to help one another, and that's what to focus on. So I'll take my Catholic guilt and go home.
Thanks, Francis.
Anybody else from the public? Seeing no one else, could I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Bills of the evening, could I have a motion to approve the bills of the evening?
They look good, Terry?
They do.
All right, cool.
The usual.
I trust Terry. I move the bills.
Dangerous, but okay.
Second.
Krista?
Haven't let me down yet.
Mr. Castellano?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Ms. Ramsey?
Yes.
Mr. Sobieski?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes. Could I have a motion to approve the administrative reports?
So moved.
Second.
All in,
I don't really have any update.
We didn't get a report.
Yeah, didn't
from-
for the state
I assume since the,
I didn't push it because of the circumstance.
yeah, that's, I assume that, we didn't get a tax collector report. This, excuse me, we're not
Francis.
done our meeting.
could we finish the meeting?
We didn't get a tax collector report. Vital, our system and they had a change of hands, so things have been running,
Like another company took them over?
or, yeah.
Or management?
Management.
Or mismanagement?
That'll do it.
It seems like mismanagement. So things are running behind. So once Emery gets the numbers from them, I'll get a report. We'll have them for next month. But just know that things are running behind on that
Gotcha.
end.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks for the reminder.
Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Frank, try not to talk so much at the meetings,
I was
okay?
thinking the same thing, Frank.